This is really starting to get worrying. Monaco won, PSG nil, and PSG lose for the second time in Ligue 1 and the third time this season. I said this is worrying because, listen, on the surface of things, you go and you say PSG currently, at least as I speak currently, are still top in Ligue 1, subject to Marseille's game, top 3 in the Champions League, so on and so forth. And you could go and say that, we've got injuries, so on and so forth. So given the circumstances, you say it's, it's not too bad. However, listen, I think now, PSG given PSG status, I think we have to be a lot more critical on ourselves. I said it after the Spurs game. In that Spurs game, we lost the game. Vitinha won us the game. PSG, the collective, realistically, I'll be honest, we're probably worse than Spurs. However, it's the fact that our individual quality came out, and that's why we won the game. And the thing is, though, this time around, though, is that when you don't have an individual who's able to, bring you a moment of magic, score you a hat trick, get you out of that difficult spot, it's tough. The thing that made PSG great last year was, yes, an aspect of the fact that, we have a great quality of individuals who can at any moment go and score you important goals and whatnot. But primarily, it was due to the fact that the collective, the team as a whole, was solid and was a unit. And I'm sorry here today now, I'm not seeing the PSG that rolled over Europe last year. I'm seeing a PSG team that's not putting any intensity, is really slow, lethargic, is not pressing. All the things that made PSG great last year are all gone this year. And I don't know why that is. I know what that is. I think it's just, whether it's, tiredness, injury. You can't use injuries now because we're starting to pick up a lot of our players. I think at this point, it's just motivation, lack of motivation. And we just look super lethargic. These last couple of months or so, we just have not looked nearly as good. And I want to especially show this by the Monaco game. I'll go and say, we got outplayed by Monaco. There's no two ways about it. We got outplayed by Monaco. Monaco, if you go and look here, the momentum, most of the game, yes, PSG towards the end here, had most of it because we were down. But for most of it here, whilst, both teams were even spread, it was 0-0, Monaco had all the momentum. And today, I can't go and say that, we got robbed today. Monaco are deserving of their win today. PSG were second best today. Monaco are deserved winners. And listen, normally you go and say, Monaco, so on and so forth. Monaco is a difficult place to go play. I think last year when we beat them 4-2 was like one of the first times we'd beaten them in, a couple of years and whatnot. But the thing is, I'm sorry, this year, Monaco is not that crazy. If I go back and I look at, the table, currently they're 6th. They were on the bounce of 3 losses straight, losing to Rennes, losing to Lens, losing to Paris FC, but then able to go and beat us. And so it's not the greatest. Of course, it's still a decent team and whatnot, but it's not a great Monaco team. And if I go and I look at the lineup that we had today here, Marquis, Pacho, Hernandez, Vitinha, Neves, Ruiz, Cavara, Mayulu, Lee. Sure, you could argue that it's not, our strongest lineup by any means and whatnot. However, this is more than good enough to go and to beat a team like Monaco at home. If we were able to go and beat Barcelona with arguably, you could say potentially a worse team than this, or a team roughly at the level of this team, we should be able to go and beat Marseille, who's not been in great form. Fact is, we had our starting midfield, the best midfield, and we just didn't really look like we dominated and commanded that midfield. Sure, the back line, we had Marquis, we had Pacho. They did their things today. I thought Warren was pretty decent today. You could argue, okay, we were missing 2 fullbacks, but today our fullbacks did their job. It's just, I don't know what, it's hard to go and say what the issue is. I also think one aspect of it, to come back to the lineup once again, is I think Lucho needs to start taking something. Of course, listen, Lucho, you will forever be in our debts. Thank you so much for what you did last year. It was incredible. But I'm sorry, at this point, when you're playing away to Monaco, and as much as I want to support my fellow Parisians, my fellow TTs and whatnot, I don't think this is a time where you bring on Jantu in the 64th minute and Bai in the 76th minute. First and foremost, I thought the substitution should have probably been made a bit earlier. But then let me go and see 𝙭. I know he's carrying a knock, so on and so forth, but this is a game that you can bring him on. If this was a thing where PSG's, 6 points ahead in the league, we've got a bunch of distance, sure, I can understand it. But this is a game, bring on 𝙭, even if it's for the last 25 minutes, to get him to run at defenders. It's just, it's light. And again, not to be too overly critical on Jantu, when he gets that chance, gets played through by Dembele, slips. as in, I don't want to go again. I don't want to be overly critical and whatnot. He's still young. He's still got room to develop. But like, ideally, if you play him in a game against 𝙀𝙊𝘾𝘼𝙎, you play him in a game against other teams and so forth. Then I guess you could argue, if he's played against Barcelona, he can play here. But this is a game where the Barcelona one was sort of just based on the circumstances. You sort of didn't really have anybody else available. Today, you had 𝙁𝙁𝘾 on the bench. You could have used something else. You could have brought Ramos in earlier instead of him, but no, he instead decided to go and bring him on. And yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know. It's annoying. It's just overall the team. Like, there's not one specific player. There's not an individual who really stank it up today. It was just the team overall as a whole that did not go and play well. And it is basically every facet of the game. Even, for example, one of the telltale signs is possession. PSG typically, routinely will go and hover more so in like the 60-65% possession. Today, 56% possession, 1.01 XG. Again, this is a bit skewed by the fact that when you go and you look at this, at the end of the game, for the last basically 15 minutes of the game, PSG play with a man advantage. And even despite all that, like, next you've won, it's not all that crazy. We're not creating nearly as many chances. Sure, we got 17 shots more than them, but they outshot us. They had more shots on target than us, and we had one more big chance created. We're just not creating nearly as much. And I think one of the things we need to go and start saying this season is that I think our best aspect of this year, or the things that have been saving our butts this year, are, I would say, number one is our midfield. I think we have the best midfield in Europe. And number two is our fullbacks, right? Hakimi and Nuno Mendes. A lot of our production has come from those 5 players as a collective, the 3 midfielders and the 2 fullbacks. If you go and you look at it, our forwards, Que Fue, ¿Dónde está? What's going on? I think our top scorer, for example, this year for PSG is João Neves. The player with the most GA this season is Vitinha. And now, great, it's all great, super good for them and whatnot to be able to go and do so. But normally in your team, where you have forwards, you have attackers who are meant to have that role. And now, granted, I will go and say that, a lot of PSG forwards have been injured. You've had Dembele who's not been, fully fit. You've had 𝙀𝙖 who's not been fully fit. But somebody like 𝙁𝙁𝘾 who, yes, has had moments, in and out of the squad. But for the most part, he's been pretty fit for the entire season. Kvaratskhelia, same thing. And the production has just not been there. And it's been primarily our midfielders and our fullbacks carrying us through. And so, yeah, I think, I don't know. The one thing I want to go and say, the one thing I'm sort of relying on is that, okay, we've not really been able to play our best squad yet and, have them, get a run of games and whatnot. But still, like, there is no excuses. The fact is that your PSG are the current European title holders. You need to be doing better against Monaco away. I don't care if it's a bogey team. I don't care this. This is PSG. We have to have a different mindset. And today, frankly, it was not good enough. And this has been pretty consistent for the last couple of games, because if I go and I just open up a new tab here and I look at PSG's, last fixtures and whatnot, I'd say this Monaco game, obviously not really good. This game against Spurs, even though we won 5-3 in the end, I would say overall in the actual game itself, not good enough. If I go in and I look again, Le Havre, this one, I would go and say this was pretty convincing. I don't think we had that. But even in this one, though, if I'm not mistaken, like, Le Havre did have a couple opportunities, or more opportunity than they should have. And again, in that game, if we go and we look at the score sheet, Lee, Neves, Barcola, yes, you wouldn't go say Barcola went and scored, Lee is an attacker, but a lot of this production, again, from our midfield. And if anything, this is probably an outlier game of all of the other ones. If I go back, once again here to the other games, the one obviously against Lyon, definitely not a good game. You could argue that we probably shouldn't have won this game, and probably, you could argue, deserved to lose this game. Bayern obviously lost that game. Nice, even though, yes, they played some absolutely disgusting fugazi terrorism football, at the end of the day, it's just not good enough. We're not building, like, if teams like Marseille will smack them, yes, they play differently, so on and so forth. These guys are getting slapped up in the Europa League, and we needed a 90th minute winner by Gonçalo Ramos off a corner against Lorient. Generational stinker by us. And I would go and say that probably our last really good game is against Brest. This was probably their last game where we're like, okay, we were chilled. We definitely deserve to win. But bar that, and this is dating back to the 25th of December, so a full month ago. So yeah, it confirms my theory that I think that for the last month or so, we've been playing in like second gear. And you go and say that, yes, because of our quality, our individual quality, in most games, that's probably going to be sufficient. However, in games like this, against better opposition, or a time where your individuals, you just aren't on it as they normally would be, now we struggle. And I don't know what else to go and say. Props to Monaco though. I thought Monaco played really well. I know they've not been in the greatest form themselves. If I go in and look at them, yes, they beat us today. They drew against Paphos. I saw that. A late minute equalizer by David Luiz. Or probably I can't remember who it was. They got smacked up by Rennes. They got smacked up by Lens, and then barely beating Bodo Glimt. So they've not been in crazy form, which is why this loss stings a bit more. It's like typically, historically, PSG at the Stade Louis II have not been great, but this is a Monaco team who currently in current form is not good either. To just go and quickly touch upon the game, the goal that they scored, I mean, it was coming. It was coming when they scored it. It's not even like I was mad. I thought the defending was, you could argue maybe the initial ball. I think it's 𝙁𝙁 who gets the ball out. Maybe we should have pressed a bit more there. It's a decent ball. Somebody probably should pick him up or press him a bit earlier. In fairness, at the end of the day, the start is well placed. It goes through, I think, Pacho's legs. There's nothing that 𝙬𝙬 can do. Fair enough. The thing is, though, on the other hand, we were not creating enough. And even before then, there were warning signs. They scored an offside goal in the first half. They had opportunities in the second half that they didn't convert. And ultimately, we were not clinical enough on our end. We missed chances. Then John 2 chance. There was, good saves by the other keeper as well. And I want to go and say specifically to just for PSG, I thought that 𝙬𝙬 today was actually really good. Made an absolutely generational save from, if I'm not mistaken, it was Minamino in the first half that kept us in the game. And beyond that point, if he's done his part, we can't go and expect him to go and making that second save. So I thought that today 𝙬𝙬 was pretty good. And speaking on 𝙬𝙬, I wanted to address this. There was a moment where Lamine Camara went and had a disgusting challenge on 𝙬𝙬. And listen, at first I thought, okay, it's just a foul, fine. On the replay, he goes and catches his ankle. In what universe is this not a straight red? In what universe? I mean, it's reckless. It's dangerous. He could have potentially snapped, 𝙬𝙬's ankle right there. This is what I don't understand. And the thing is that, listen, afterwards, Monaco went on to get a red card. It was 𝙀𝙀𝘼𝘾𝘼𝙎𝑎 went on to get a red card. And if anything, I thought that this one was extremely, fugazi, because on this one, for those who didn't watch the game, basically a long ball gets played to 𝙀𝙀. He chests it down really well, and it's going low on goal. And the thing is, 𝙀𝙀𝘼 is sort of late to it and barges into him. The best example I want to go and use is, if you guys remember when Theo Hernandez bumped into Mason Mount in the World Cup between France and England. It was basically that exact play. He chests it down really well. He's going towards goal and gets bumped in the back. The thing is, though, is that they deem that 𝙀𝙀𝘼 was the last man, the last defender, and so he was denying a clear goal scoring opportunity. And granted, I would say it's a foul, but to go and say, like, listen, I'll take the red and whatnot, but the fact that is a red and there's no debate, but the Lamine Camara one isn't. Que Fue. This is why I'm saying, like, again, this is just an application of the game, of the rules of the game and whatnot. But I don't understand. I thought the 𝙬𝙬 one was reckless endangering your opponent. Could have potentially, luckily 𝙬𝙬 was able to, continue on and actually have a good performance afterwards. But that was a very reckless challenge. He did not need to go flying in like that, studs up and whatnot. Nothing. Gets away with a yellow. And then afterwards, you have 𝙀𝙀𝘼 who, yes, bumps into him and whatnot. Straight red. I don't understand it. But again, it wouldn't materially change anything. I think that it's a wake-up call, and hopefully we can take this as a wake-up call. To just quickly look at our next fixture list and whatnot. We've got Rennes at home. We've got Athletic Club. We've got Metz. And then we've got, I think, the Intercontinental Club World Cup. So we've got, 4 more games for the rest of 2025. At this point, I'm just like, okay, let's just get the points, go on, be Athletic Club, make sure we're in the top 8 for the Champions League, and sort of make it through and start to get our players back. And then we sort of move on from there. But this is definitely a wake-up call. I would go and say that PSG comfortably right now, we cannot. I think, I obviously, given the Champions League in midweek and whatnot, I'd say PSG definitely cannot be considered a top 2 team currently. I think Arsenal's definitely ahead of them, as much as it pains me to go and say it. Arsenal's definitely better than PSG. I think if we were to play Arsenal right now currently, I think that most likely, if I was a betting man, I'd probably go and say Arsenal probably would. I think Bayern, obviously, they just recently beat us and whatnot, so I think Bayern would beat us as well. But then I think, okay, we're probably third, but I think that there is the gap between us and whoever Bayern, I would go and say, is in second, is bigger than the gap between whoever's in third and fourth between us. I just don't think we've been up to it. We've definitely not been at our best. Luckily for us, it's not paid. It's not caused us too many issues, but we need to start spreading it out because if we play like this and we go into this in March and so on and so forth, we're going to get knocked out early. All right. So hopefully we'll lock in. It's not the end all be all by any means either. I guess the one good thing is that you'll go and say that it makes Ligue 1 rather quite interesting by the virtue that all of a sudden now PSG's obviously in first. Marseille's in second. They play later on here at 8 p.m. my local time. And if they win, they'd go 1 point ahead of us. So in terms of the entertainment, I'd say it's good for the league. It makes it really competitive. But for PSG, especially going and thinking that, in March, February time and whatnot, ideally, this is the time where you want to go and get a run of games, go winning 4 or 5, 6 games in a row. Whereas this time around, okay, we were on a win streak of 3 games. But again, you could say, okay, pretty comfortable. I'd say Lyon obviously not, and then Nice obviously not. The games before then have not been all that breezy and all that great, and hopefully we pattern up and we'll be able to fix that. But yeah, that's basically it. That's all. It's tough. But we move. But guys, thank you guys very much for joining and watching the video. It's been a pleasure as always. I hope to see you guys next time. And remember, stay safe, stay kind, and stay blessed. Godspeed.